One thing that's really made its round for the Chicago Bulls over the weekend is how much power Billy Donovan really does have in the front office decision for the Chicago Bulls. We'll talk a brief update from Brett Siegel on that. We're also going to look at second-round steals for the Chicago Bulls. I got 3 players to keep an eye out in the second round, and we're going to dive into the mailbag. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And Billy Donovan, I know it's a topic of discussion. We still have not gotten an official update on what Billy Donovan is going to do. We keep getting talk around Billy Donovan, though. This one comes from the Stein line, Mark Stein saying this. The other word out of Chicago lastly is that the Bulls not only want to keep Billy Donovan in place as their coach, but also that Donovan is likely to have a strong voice in the Bulls' search for new lead executives to run the front office. I learned this week that the Bulls have selected Turnkey ZRG as the firm to navigate their executive hiring process. So not only do we already knew the Bulls are going to be hiring a firm to help them find their next exec. We knew that. No surprise there. We already knew that Billy Donovan, if he's going to stay on, was going to have a say, right? We heard that, even amongst the Billy Donovan thing, like if he's asked for his input, he will. And this is just a follow-up to what we've already kind of known about this Bulls team, right? Like the ownership has shown its hand. There's no sleight of hand here. There's no planning for anything else. The Bulls are absolutely, if Billy Donovan wants to stay here, Billy Donovan is going to stay, and he's in the family now. Like I when I say that, I mean this, right? For example, Doug Collins was still on Bulls payroll up until, I think, the season before last season. But John Paxson, after stepping down as the president, which got taken over by AK, has been on Bulls payroll as a special advisor since then, right? So the Reinsdorfs are loyal to a fault in some cases, right? Especially once you become a Reinsdorfian guy, right? You then have carte blanche when it comes down to the Chicago Bulls organization, and they're almost never going to fire you. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be the head coach the whole time, but it does mean that they're going to take care of him. I'm going to say this. Unless Billy Donovan chooses to walk away this summer, which we're still waiting for, I'm going to go on to say that Billy Donovan's probably going to be in the Bulls organization in some degree under some role for as long as he wants to be. Doesn't always mean it's going to be head coach. Could be a special advisor. Could be assistant GM. Could be GM. But as long as Billy Donovan wants to stay here in Chicago, the Reinsdorfs are going to allow him to stay. I would say this. I'll go so much as to say this. Even if Billy Donovan does decide to take his year to walk away, let's say he doesn't take any other head coaching job. He takes a year to walk away. If Billy Donovan decides after the year, like, hey, I don't know if I want to coach, but I'm down for being in front office and maybe lead scout or whatever else, the Bulls are going to be there ready to write him whatever check he wants. So it's not surprising to me. And, I almost got a breaking news episode out when the news dropped, and I'm just like, it's really not surprising. Anybody who actually is a follower of the Chicago Bulls, and not just the team, right? I mean, it actually follows the Chicago Bulls, how the inner workings of the franchise work and stuff like that in news. This should not be a surprise to you. I said this 5 years ago when Billy Donovan came out, and it was before the season. It was like one time before training camp, and he said, I talk to Jerry Reinsdorf every day. We either text or we talk every day. I said then, Billy Donovan's not going anywhere. He's going to be here forever. And that's just, I understand, because I understand this franchise. I've been a fan of this franchise my whole entire life. Once you're in with Jerry, or Michael for that matter, you're in. You're good. And then when you have Michael Reinsdorf's comments in regards to like saying, well, if we interview somebody and they're not sold on Billy, then, hey, we don't want them here. Like, it's just all part of the program. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't think it's the death nail that some people are making out to be that they are so loyal to Billy Donovan, because, we'll see, right? But it's an unnecessary barrier and restriction that you don't need. But I'm not going to re-litigate all that. You guys know my thought process on, how the Reinsdorfs are handling the Billy Donovan part of it with the new GM search. All I can say is this, is that I hope they get the right guy at GM, exec, president of basketball, whatever it is, just get the right guy. If that guy can have success here, he's going to be successful. I'll say this, so much so, is that the guy who's running the day-to-day in the decision is so much more important that they get the right players, that they make the right trade decisions, that all those things that I'm not going to, like, that's so much more important than if Billy Donovan's the coach or not, right? Because I do think if a guy is smart, he's going to be able to get the roster to a point to where Billy Donovan's going to be able to do something with it. And then at that point, if Billy can't get over the hump, that's what's then going to expose Billy. And then at that point, you may see him move to that other role and the new head coach come on. So I still am looking at whoever's going to run this show day-to-day for the Chicago Bulls, it's extremely important to get that guy right. And then hopefully the rest kind of all just falls into place after that. But let me know what you guys think down below in regards to the new thing that came out in regards to Billy Donovan and the Chicago Bulls, all that type of stuff. Let me know that down below. With that said, let's move on, right? I said that we were going to get into second-round prospects. We talk about picks at number 9, picks at number 15. I have 3 prospects here that could go in the second round that I think this is regardless of position. These are just 3 players that I really like here potentially for the Chicago Bulls. The first one is a guy that some of you guys have brought up, and it's only a slim chance that he's going to fall into the second round. He's projected by a lot of mocks to be at the end of the first. That's why I feel comfortable, because all it does is take somebody to reach on a different player or something like that. And so if you're the end of the first round, it's easy for you to go to the beginning of the second round. But this player who I'm going to talk about is Morez Johnson. If Morez Johnson does fall out of the first round, right, a lot of mocks have him slated to go one of those last 3 to 5 last picks, right? But if he does happen to fall into the second round, I would not be mad at the Chicago Bulls packaging any of the plethora of second-round picks that they have to move up to then get him. My problem with Morez Johnson was the people that say, oh, let's draft him at 9 or 15. You're crazy for that. But if you see that the kid has slipped out of the first round and he's there at the beginning of the second round, you go out and you get Morez Johnson. Now, for those that don't know, once we get past the draft lottery, that's when I'll be doing tape breakdowns on players. I'm just not going to go into that depth of coverage with the draft prospects yet before we exactly know where we're going to pick in the first round. So for those that are like, Haize, don't you usually show video and you do tape breakdowns? We're going to get to that. That's just going to happen after the draft lottery. But with that said, Morez Johnson, out of Michigan, 6'9", 250 pounds. Of course, from Illinois, and he's a hometown kid, which some people have brought up. What I love about him, and again, this is per him going at the end of the first, beginning of the second round, is just he's a tough player that does the dirty work. He has elite role player written all over him. And by that, I don't mean an elite player. I don't mean that. I don't even mean that he may not even turn into a starter, but this is a guy that's just going to get it done, that you really do think the high floor that he has, it makes him super efficient, right? He plays physical. You need that. We haven't had a true physical interior presence. Well, we had a little bit of it with Nick Richards, just a little bit of it. I still think he leaves a lot to be desired for. But, you look at Morez Johnson, like that physicality that you want from a big, he brings all of that. He rebounds really well. He really is a good defender of bigs as well. I like that. He defends pretty well in pick and roll. He's very smart as a defensive player. And so you talk about raising the ceiling of the defense for the Chicago Bulls. Morez Johnson can help do that, especially if you're getting him in the second round. Some of the concerns with him is that he doesn't have a lot of offensive capability at all. It just is what it is. He's basically just an in-the-paint player, and that's fine. He's not a consistent shooter, right? But I don't necessarily need that from a role-playing big that you get at the end of the first or the beginning of the second round, right? You don't need that. He can score. He does have some post moves, but again, he's not that elite of a finisher. He's just not going to be that elite creator on the post. He's just not going to be that, and that's perfectly fine. I think what the role that's going to best suit him, he doesn't need that. He's going to have to refine his defense a little bit. I think that's going to be a thing, just the foul discipline, but that's for every young big that I think you need there. And he does have a ceiling as an offensive option. But again, you draft at the end of the first or beginning of the second round, I think you can get a hell of a player out of Morez Johnson. I think Morez he's just an old-fashioned, powerful-ass big man that's going to play efficient. He's going to play with physicality. He's going to rebound the hell of that ball, and motherfuckers ain't going to be able to move him out of their spot. I think that's just the reality of it. So I love the concept of Morez Johnson, especially if he falls in that second round, you move up and get him. And that's the thing. And I wouldn't even be mad if the Bulls try to package a bunch of their seconds and then move up to the end of the first to get him. I wouldn't be mad at that either. Like, that's what second-round picks are for. So, I would not be mad if the Bulls try to acquire yet a third first-round pick. So we'll see what you do there. The next guy that is projected by most mocks, Tarris Reed, the center out of UConn. He was a senior, 6'11", 265 pounds. This is a kid that just powerful. Like, again, a lot of the same things I said about Morez Johnson apply. Now, Tarris Reed has more legit NBA size at 6'11" and 265. This guy is he's improved every year that he was in college, every single year. He's huge. He's physical. He does all that type of stuff. That interior physicality that he brings, again, is something that the Bulls have lacked. I do think he has more legit post moves, low post moves than like Morez Johnson has. I think he has more back to the basket moves. He's a more fluid scorer than Morez Johnson. I still wouldn't expect him to round out to like a huge score, but he has a soft touch. He can finish around the rim. He understands how to use the strength of his body to move people out of his way. The thing that I do love about him a lot too, especially in the second round, is that his ability to set screens. And I know that that's something that we don't talk enough about, but he sets hard physical screens that create so much separation for the ball handler that then he also understands how to move as the roller on that time as well. So he just helps create in that area. He's not a passer, but he helps create that. And I'll say this, he still has a decent feel for passing as well. Rebounding is going to be good. The defensive ability is going to be good. The thing that are concerned about him, below the rim big. He doesn't have a big verticality, right? He's not an explosive athlete. And the shooting range is very limited for him, and he has no left hand, right? So those are the things that you're looking for him. Again, like most big men that we're going to talk about in this area, he does have some foul discipline issues, but, that's kind of just a young big man. He'll work that out in the NBA, or, again, because you're drafting him in the second round, you're probably looking at him to be a bench player at that point in time. I don't know if it's going to factor in as much if that ends up being the case. So that's one. And then the third one that I want to bring up, Joshua Jefferson, forward out of Iowa State, 6'9", 240 pounds. What I love about this kid is the versatility. When you're going into the second round, you try to find players that can do multiple things for you. And that if any second round player has a legit skill that you're looking at, like, hey, we know he's going to be able to do that right away. That's worth it in the second round. He has really good playmaking for his size. His handles are really decent as well. He has like I said, that interior presence is really good for him also. Really good footwork, touch around the basket. He knows how to rebound. He knows how to put himself in position as well to box out, which is another skill that we don't talk enough about. And the defensive activity that he has. This guy has really active hands. He's going to create a lot of transition opportunities for whatever team drafts him. I love that. He can test shots as well. So the stocks. He's a player that's going to get some stocks in the NBA. He's just a high IQ player as well. Extremely smart overall. Matt Babcock, the NBA draft analyst, said this. Joshua Jefferson is a talented player with a unique blend of physical toughness and skill, especially as a facilitator. I think he has a real chance to hear his name called in June. So listen, he has some times. Now, he does have some concerns. Not an explosive leaper. Not everybody needs to be explosive leaper, especially if you're projected to be a bench player in the NBA. He's not as consistent with his shot either. And, there's the thing. And he doesn't really bring any rim protection, even though he does have active hands. So he's not the true type of rim protector that you look at because that vertical leap isn't there. And I do think sometimes he runs into some bad decision-making at times offensively, but he's tough, he's skilled, has a really good feel for the game, he's unselfish as well, and he's just one of those players that strike me as, I'm going to do whatever it takes for my team to win. And those are players that if you get those guys in the second round, they can really work out for you. So those are at least the first three players that I'm going to cover that's projected to go in the second round. We're going to get into a lot of them as the draft goes on, but those are some of the guys that stand out the most to me. But I want to hear from you guys. Who are some players that could fall to the second round or that are projected to go in the second round that you have your eye on in this upcoming NBA draft? Let me know that down below. With that said, it is Sunday, so it is Mailbag Day. Let's get into these voicemails. This one's from Jay.
Yo, Haize, this is Jay. Last time I called, we had a front office. It's crazy. The way things change, it's crazy. How we got to 9-15 is crazy. Hey, man, I'm just happy that all my predictions is coming true. I'm happy that Chicago is looking up these days. And I'm ready to turn over the other leaves. So here's my dream scenario of what should be happening over the course of the summer. I just wish that we have a competent, front office that can do so. I'm liking the candidates so far. One of the two should do. We should always be looking at player development and people that's going to be helping our franchise. So, two players that we need to sign this offseason. Jimmy Butler, take on his contract, invest in the future. That's an easy yes. We drafted him at the number 30 pick. He wasn't expected to be anything. He's the perfect person that you want to help the youth, especially if we can build a contender around him, like we should have the first time. Let's look at who we got. Next person we should get Chris Paul. What he did to the Oklahoma City Thunder franchise, what he did for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If we get any of the top picks, we need Chris Paul to replicate his IQ into the minds of the youth. And that's going to push our franchise forward. We can't replicate 7-5. We can't replicate like raw athletic talent like Derrick Rose, but we can replicate IQ, which is why players like Chris Paul have been able to stay in the league for so long. We need that type of energy around our team. If we can get a top 4 draft pick, I really just want the number 1, AJ. That'll make this whole thing, and then draft Amara. We need to draft Amara no matter what at number 15, regardless, because you can't teach second threes. He's a lob threat with an all-star potential, quote unquote, Josh Giddey, who can throw it up wherever he wants to. Go get Giddey. If we do this, go get Amara. If we can get this franchise with those players on our team, whatever you want to do with Rob Dillingham, I don't really care. I don't really see like all-star. I don't see 6 man of the year really. He could be. I'd rather have Chris Paul on his final year, have a 6 man of the year campaign, and bring him into the front office or the coaching staff right after that. That's what I want for my franchise. Anyway, Chicago, we up.
Jimmy Butler at almost 40 and after tearing an ACL is not an easy yes, bro. Now, if you're saying that we're going to absorb his contract and take on some draft picks to help facilitate a deal, then yeah, but the Jimmy Butler is not the goal there. It's the picks that you're getting. I'm fine with that. But saying that Jimmy, and even the Chris Paul thing, we got to stop. This isn't osmosis, right? They're not to say that players don't learn from other players, they do. But it has to also be strategic in what you get. Signing Chris Paul or getting Jimmy Butler, not easy yeses. I'm sorry, they're just not. Now, if you're going to say, hey, Chris Paul is willing to join the coaching staff for us, great. But I think with the Bulls only having 6 roster spots open and we have potentially 4 first-round picks coming in here and money to actually go out there and get a restricted free agent, you got so much that you need to worry about first before you start thinking about vanity signings. Again, in my personal opinion. So that's just where I stand on it. I get what you're getting at, but that's just my personal opinion on it. As far as with Mara, listen, I need Bulls fans to stop groupthink. I really need it. Ade Mara is a really solid prospect, where people acting like he's some can't-miss prospect all of a sudden, and it's the steady groupthink that Bulls fans have. And I get it. Not everybody has time to do deep dives into NCAA and all this type of stuff. But this thing, the thought process now, there's so many, Ade Mara, and you can always tell when Bulls fans fall into the groupthink, and it's just because of what they've seen popular be said, so they just roll with it. It's prospects in here that have even more versatility than Ade Mara. Now, I'm not going to be mad if the Bulls do draft him at all. This is why I talked about him. He was one of the players on my list. But I think at the same time, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Ade Mara. All right, let's move on. Let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from AI Kid.
Yo, what up, Haize? Shot Bulls Network. What's the word? It's AI Kid. I was calling because I wanted to say I don't think the Bulls are going to be competing next year. I think we all know that. I think AK leaving that front office and Shams put us in an inevitable rebuild, but it was replacing him with the first thing I would reestablish is our tone. Putting the uncanny championship embedded culture back in the United Center, then evaluate the roster. And when I look at who we have, we don't have any stars to build off of. So it's only right that we build off of players that make winning plays. And I think those players is Trey, Josh Montes, Okoro, Sexton, and Miller, really. Ideally building around Josh and Montes. And Josh being a playmaking shot creator needs a 3-and-D backcourt mate. But Trey can't shoot, Simons can't defend, and Sexton can't catch and shoot. And that's why we should get Wagler out of Illinois. His defense going to catch up fine, and his shooting will continue to grow. And we keep Trey for his defense and Dillingham to study him if we let Simons and Sexton work. This gives him intuition on how to be sound defensively as a small guard. Okoro and Miller are ideal small forwards, but both are inconsistent. We need a two-way versatile wing, which while Montes will go back to his natural position, because that's exactly what we need from that position is Montes. But ideally for a 4, we need a consistent hard-nosed sharpshooter, which is ideally P. Will. He would be able to handle it at this point in his career, but we all know we asking too much for him to shoot and defend consistently. And re-signing Zach Collins and his injury concerns is a gamble. That is why I think Montes should stay at the 4, and we find these small bigs in the draft that can shoot, because majority of the bigs in the draft are small and can defend. I say we find one of them that can shoot and just make them a small floor for us. Because I see us having like a Monstars type of roster with Josh Giddey running like 6'8". So we should get like a shooting guard Miller could be our shooting guard for the future, hopefully, if everything fails. And as a big, we need a defensive force, so we have to spend the cap space on someone like Kessler and get a De'Amara in the draft so we can have enough to bring another star as well. But for me, Josh, Wagner, Boozy, Collins, and Kessler at our starting five. Not Colin Sexton, but Zach Collins. And Trey, Rob, rotate ones the Billy way. You know what I'm saying? P. Will going to be at the 2, coming off the bench, of course. Smith and Noah rotate the 3 the Billy way. And the De'Amara at the 5. I think that's going to be our starting lineup coming next season. And that's going to help our rookies grow in this rebuild. But that's all for me, Haize. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Who y'all think we should get in this draft?
I think you have to build a smart, balanced team, right? And I think that's what you have to do. You have to build as smart and a balance of a team as you can. If somebody develops into a superstar, great, but you have to go in with the thought process of building and how things and pieces fit together, right? I love Wagner for a lot of the reasons that you set up. I think he has so much potential. And like I talked about in his draft profile when I did it, don't overlook if Wagner ends up turning into a really decent defender once he gets to the NBA level and realize, oh, let me take this a little bit more seriously, right? So I think that, and to say this, I still think he grew a lot defensively last year that people kind of overlook because, they're focusing on his offense. So, I love Keaton Wagner. He's one of my favorite prospects in this draft, especially for around the number 9 spot. I think he fits with Josh and Miles for sure. I would not mind Keaton Wagner's name being called for the Chicago Bulls at all. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Josh.
Hey, how's it going, Bulls fans? Haize, how's it going, man? Been watching for listening and watching for a long time. Much appreciate what you do, and I hope you have get all the success that's due your way. And it's definitely coming soon. Kind of got a little bit of a hot take, but not necessarily a hot take, at least if you ask me. You came up with a short not too long ago. I think it was titled, "Was John Paxson Any Good?" I left a comment on that video. I know I'm probably going to get some heat for this, some flack from this, some Bulls fans. I know, some Bulls are kind of fair weather fans, and some Bulls fans always seem to be, 50-50, always up in the air. But I really don't think that John Paxson deserves all the hate that he gets. I really don't think that he was as bad as people think that he was. And I'm going to break it down, right? Let's start with his drafts, right? His draft picks. He had been running the Bulls, obviously, for a very long time. This man oversaw draft picks like Tyson Chandler, right? Kirk Heinrich, guys that really revitalized the franchise. Luol Deng, Nocioni, Chris Duhon, Ben Gordon, Joakim Noah, Jimmy Butler, Derrick Rose. Some real Bulls legends this guy drafted. Now, he certainly had some misses, obviously. Number one that comes to mind is, for example, drafting Tarris Thomas instead of LaMarcus Aldridge. That's one that always kind of stung for a long time. But you're going to have some misses. That's just the reality of the business. Some other ones, obviously, Cristiano Felicio, people like that. So he's definitely had some misses. But overall, I think he drafted pretty well. As far as trades goes, he made some really good moves at the time when Bulls needed a little bit of a refresh. Trading for John Salmon from the Kings at the time. He traded for Carlos Boozer, Pau Gasol, Ben Wallace. Those were some pretty decent moves at the time when the Bulls really needed it to contend. Especially when we got somebody like Pau Gasol. I really thought that we were going to go for the chance, win the chip. That didn't happen. It doesn't always work out that way. But that resume as a whole really isn't as bad as people think that it is. I think overall, it's really not that.
Pax was a lot better than people will give him credit for. And I think what Pax did so well is that he drafted players that fit together really well. And he knew when to move off players. Like the deal he got for Eddie Curry was a great deal when you go back and look at what the Bulls got back and then what Eddie Curry ended up giving for that. Yeah, he had his misses. Every GM has his misses. Tyrese Thomas was a miss. Marquise Teague was a miss, right? I think Teague was still a Paxson draft, or was Gar there by then? Maybe Gar was there by then. Yeah, because that was after Rose, so Gar would have did that. But a lot of the things that we have negatives about with Pax came toward the after Gar came. And that's not to say that he doesn't get abstained from that just because it was after Gar. It's just that Pax had a vision, and he built that vision well. And he did that with not always having the most premium picks. Now, he wasted a number one overall pick in trading down for Tyrese Thomas, but we all know that was a huge miss by the Chicago Bulls there. So, it is what it is. But Pax did a lot more, I think, good than bad. And I think it just ended really terribly. And the thing that I always give Pax credit for as well is that he realized when it was time for him to step down. He realized that not a lot of people have that level of awareness. Gar and Pax would have probably still been in power if Pax didn't go to ownership and was like, listen, I think it's time. You probably need to hire somebody else new to do this. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's get into this last one that we got. This one's from Juice Leroy.
Yo, what up, Haize, man? This is Juice Leroy, man. Fuck with the show, my boy. Just wanted to get into a couple things real quick, man. The Bulls been so ass this year, shorty. I didn't start watching college basketball and shit. I don't even watch college basketball like that, but in doing so, I paid a lot of attention to, most of the top teams and shit. And I happened to catch a lot of Michigan games, man. And listen, I don't give a damn what the Bulls do in the draft, man, but I just really hope they could come away with them having 2 picks. I hope some kind of way. I know it's probably a long shot, and I don't even know if you covered this already, but I hope they can come away with 2 of them Michigan players, man. The tall guy, what's his name, Adai Maurer, and Yaxel Lindenborg, man. Them 2 guys, I think, would totally change the trajectory of this team, man. Like, probably not immediately, but down the line, you know what I'm saying? I really think, we'll be good with them 2 guys. That'll be the only thing that'll make me, get back in tune after they did that dumbass shit and traded Ayo, which really blew me because they didn't even have to do that. But that's neither here nor there. There's fucking water under the bridge already. But, man, listen, I just want to know what you think about that. If you already covered it, you know what I'm saying? I probably didn't see it. But, yeah, them 2 guys, man, how you think they'll help the team? And do you think they'll help the team, man, put us back in contention for some real legit playoff basketball at least? You know what I'm saying? At the least. Within the next year or 2. Couple years, I suppose, with them guys being new. But Yaxel, he the most NBA ready, you know what I'm saying, as far as body and strength-wise. I think he ready to go. You know what I'm saying? And, both of them guys got a unique skill set, man, that I think would fit well with this team, especially the big guy, man. Like, he a good passer and shit like that for his size. And he a little more nimble than a lot of guys that big, usually be. He got to work on, moving his feet on defense and shit like that. But, man, I just think, I don't know, man. I think he'll be good, man, at the 5 for us, man. And which would allow Modest to go back to the 3 because Yaxel could play the 4. You know what I'm saying? Given we get rid of P. Will last and these other guys probably leave.
Zero chance Bulls get both Yaxel and Mar. I think now they're starting to project to go higher. I wouldn't be mad if we get one of those guys. I just think with Yaxel, it's the age thing. Now, yeah, he has a really high floor, but you also got to think about the fact of like how far the Bulls are from really contending. With Yaxel, it just comes down to where players with higher ceilings around where he's projected to go, especially if some of the recent rumors of him possibly going in the top 10 or 12 are true. If Mar's there at number 15, he's still at number 15. No doubt about it. And even if the Bulls were to draft him at number 9, it's not that it's necessarily outright just a horrible pick. It's just that I wouldn't be surprised if we look back and that's the problem with drafting and have not taken best player available, right? Like, because, yeah, we need a big and we need rim protection. But you know what we need more than any of that? We need a star, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if we were to draft Mar at number 9, just using that as example, and we look at it and say, hey, Mar's been perfectly fine. But there were 2 guys that went after him that turned into all-stars. Like, I just wouldn't be surprised if that happened. So, it's a risk thing that you got to take. And, the Bulls, as we go through the evaluation, I can't wait to get into the draft combine and see how stocks rise and fall over that case. And, we'll be here to cover it all because that's what we do here at Chicago Bulls Central. But that's going to do it for today, y'all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, man. Make sure you guys, we'll talk about the following. The offseason is more about just moves, right? It's about a direction. And that's really what the Bulls have to find in this offseason is find that direction. Can they? Let's see. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.